And welcome to this episode of Season 3 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and sometimes guests talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late John Popham. So let's do our usual weather check. Sweyn, how's the weather been where you are this week?
That's a very good question. The weather's been quite good. We've had our outdoor performances outdoors over the weekend. We've got a local thing going for that. If wet in Church Hall, but it wasn't wet, so that was good. Today, I normally look out the window like this and say, oh, well, the weather is this. I've been all morning in this darkened room, so I don't actually know what the weather's doing outside. I assume it's okay because there's no lashing rain on the window panes.
Mm-hmm. Well, here in Birmingham, it has rained, and I think it's not raining right now. I can look out my window, although see my window needs cleaning. I'll do that later. But I've been out already this morning at a helping to deliver a retrofit session at a local primary school. So it kind of rained on and off there, and it was good to be talking to young people about retrofitting their houses and fitting insulation and teaching them
insulation, yes.
Stuff. So
I was about to ask you retrofit what, but it's insulation.
Houses. Yeah.
Yes. As they say, the cheapest kilowatt hour of energy is the one that you don't use, and insulation helps you not use it.
Yeah. Well, we were showing them we showed them about how sheep's wool keeps things warm. One of my colleagues had brought along her porridge pot to show how it was still warm because it was kept in a bag with sheep's wool around it. We dressed up one of the kids in kind of warm clothes to show how to keep warm that way, and then they each got a model of a house to retrofit. So they had solar panels, insulation, glazing, and gardens as well. Obviously, a part of that, and heat pumps were another thing that we talked about. So it was.
This sounds like the coursework I've just finished from my MSc. So
okay.
Good to get people going on that sort of thing very young. That's great.
Yeah, no, they're all very interested in it and had some good thoughts about it. So that was good to do. Okay, let's move on then into our dates for this time of year. Do you want to lead off with the ones that you've been identifying?
Sure. And first of all, we've got I need to remember to share the screen though, don't I? Oh yes. How do I do that? Every week it's the same, isn't it? I think, I must share the screen. I'm going to share the wrong bit of the screen, and I'm now going to share the right bit of the screen. There it is. Now. Mm-hmm. This is the Council for British Archaeology's Festival of Archaeology. We're about halfway through it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see on the shared screen, but there's a highlight of the famous Ness of Brodgar archaeological dig, the Neolithic dig in Orkney.
I didn't know there was one.
Oh yes, and the artist in residence there is my good friend Jeannie Boozer Rose. Mm-hmm. She's from New York, but she's an adopted Arcadian. Anyway, this is a national thing organised by the British Archaeology Council, and incorporates hundreds of in-person and virtual events delivered by community groups, heritage organisations, universities, commercial units, and so on and so on. About 500,000 people that they expect to engage in archaeology over the 2 weeks. Exploring stories of place and connecting them with the environment around them. This is the UK's biggest annual celebration of archaeology, and the reason I picked it was because there was so much arranged to be happening online. Archaeology has transformed itself out of all recognition, even in the last 15 years. Every major site now will have an online daily blog diary. There'll be a Facebook group called the Friends of the Ness of Brodgar or the Friends of the Cairns, and this isn't just Orkney, this is all over the place. Every dig is trying to engage the public digitally in what it's doing, because obviously, although they're quite happy to have some visitors, there's a limit to how many visitors you can safely have on site. So digital is made for archaeology because you can make it available, make the ideas and the experience available online, and maybe have people visit slightly less regularly so that there's less stress on the actual site. Excellent. So I've already said that it's the biggest annual celebration of archaeology. And they coordinate this festival, the Council for British Archaeology, and they provide support to organisers. The website, which is on the screen now, shows information about what's going on. And there's all sorts of stuff. It acts as a hub for the public, providing search facilities, a blog, competitions, and details of the festival's principal online events, such as a day in archaeology and Ask an Archaeologist Day. I'm not
Great.
certain those haven't passed because we've come into the festival halfway through, but go and have a look on the website for what is going on.
So hundreds of events. So the events are up and down the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I've actually got the search set to Orkney there.
Mm.
So let's just take that off, and you get absolutely dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of events. So some are hybrid events, some are on the ground, and some are online. So have a look at that.
Great, looks wonderful.
So the next date, I usually stop sharing in between, but I'll just keep sharing quick while I'm ahead on the sharing front. The next date I noticed was International Safe Places to Work Day. Now, when I saw this, I thought this will be about hard hats and signposts on construction sites saying keep out, but no, it's psychological safety mainly. At least this year seems to be the focus. So International Safe Places to Work Day is an annual event, as all of our events are. I don't know why we read that bit out every single time, but they're all annual events. This one's dedicated to celebrate organizations and individuals that eliminate fear and champion psychological safety in the workplace. I think this is fantastic. 2023 marks the inaugural list of fearless pioneers, which are business leaders and thought leaders who strive to promote psychological safety. And this list recognizes their contributions to the field and gives a platform to share their wisdom and knowledge. So I love this bit. Why is it on the 24th of July? Because, wait for it, psychological safety should be a 24/7 thing.
Yay!
It's like Star Trek Day, May the 4th. And this date acknowledges that there should be a continuous effort and not limited to a single day. So it emphasizes the need for organizations to prioritize and enable psychological safety to create workplace environments where individuals feel safe to speak up, share their ideas, ask questions, and voice concerns without fear of retribution or harassment. I mean, it's just brilliant. It goes on that there's projects such as Project Aristotle, which have prioritized psychological safety, and that was a research initiative at Google, and it shed light on the profound impact of psychological safety. I think everybody knows this deep down, everyone knows this, but there's such an effect on team performance, productivity, and engagement if you have a workforce that feels safe psychologically. And the benefits that Project Aristotle identified included improvements in various dimensions, such as collaboration and learning, innovation and creativity, growth and development, employee well-being, and business performance and resilience. So something a positive for everyone in there, for the business, for the individuals, for society in general. So I really was pleased to find this day. Moving on from, 100 years ago, it would have been normal for a certain number of people every year to die at work, and people would just accept that as a thing. That's now completely changed. People can't die at work without major investigations and lessons learned reports and improvements to safety. I think we're maybe a quarter or half away towards stopping accepting psychological harm at work, towards a situation where we don't accept psychological harm at work, and we make places psychologically safe to work. So that I really this one really struck me as sometimes I think, well, we'll just include this date because we need to, but this week both of them were definitely needed to be included. So do you want to take the End Poverty Day one, because I've promoted that to being an event? So this is a forward notice of an event and how to get involved in it. I sometimes think we should do that because sometimes we're a bit late in highlighting these things, but this one's really at the core of what we're all about.
Absolutely. So this is the inaugural End Digital Poverty Day, and it's happening on the 12th of September, which will be the week we're hoping to come back to you with season 4 of the Dr. Tech Show. So this is an early warning for those of you who organize events and want to celebrate and promote being part of ending digital poverty, as we hope that we are doing with our program. And it's a nationwide initiative dedicated to raising awareness about the pressing issue of digital poverty in the UK. and it's organised by the Digital Poverty Alliance, friends of the programme, and they invite everyone and all organisations to join in the collective effort to work towards ending digital poverty and empowering individuals and communities. And they're defining digital poverty as the inability to interact with the online world fully when, where, and how an individual needs to or wants to, I suppose, as well. Access to digital enables us to connect, learn, work, and access vital services. More than ever, not having access to the digital world means not having access to fundamentals of life, with a significant portion of the UK population still lacking the necessary resources to participate fully in the digital world. This digital exclusion can exacerbate existing inequalities in society or introduce new inequalities. Those without access to digital resources face barriers in education, employment opportunities, healthcare, and social inclusion. So the DPA is inviting us all to join them in the fight against digital poverty on End Digital Poverty Day. This initiative about raising awareness about the pressing issue of digital poverty. So they're kind of suggesting some ways in which you can get involved. Fundraising, for example, a bake sale, a no uniform day for people at school, a quiz, a sponsored activity, or even donating 1% of your profits on the day. Organize an event. You can organize events in your community or online, raising awareness and educating others about digital poverty. You can do some advocacy, spread awareness about digital poverty, and encourage others to join End Digital Poverty Day, which is the hashtag they're using, End Digital Poverty Day. You can donate, make a financial contribution to empower the DPA to provide devices, connectivity, and digital skills training to those in need. You could volunteer, offer your time and expertise to initiatives and organizations working on digital inclusion projects, and or write a blog about why ending digital poverty matters to you and or your organization, and share it online. So there's lots of ways you can get involved, and you can do one or more of these activities if you wish. We'll certainly be encouraging others to do these activities and doing it ourselves, obviously, because it's what we do every week in this program. So yes, encouraging lots of people to get involved in that, and it's great to see it. This is an inaugural day, so it won't have happened before, but we'll be adding it to our regular calendar, and hoping others do too. So yeah. Nice one, Sweyn. Okay, let's move on to a couple of events that we've picked up that are happening around this time. I just picked up one local digital community meetup. There are many meetups happening. If you look on Eventbrite, you can find out lots of digital events all over the place. But this one is particular because it's a networking event hosted by TPX Impact, who actually were one of the sponsors for Open Data Camp. So hi to TPX, our friends at TPX Impact. They say their goal is to promote the local digital commons, the best practice projects helping to fix the plumbing of local public services and to better network everyone working on this important mission. So they're saying if you're working to promote radically new standards-based models and tools for local public services, whether in local or central government or the private or third sectors, we want to celebrate with you. They are going to organise other meetups as well, between alternating them between London and beyond, to get together and share notes on some of the most promising exemplars in systems change, projects that are helping us move towards more user-friendly, flexible and impactful local public services. So that's on Wednesday, 26th of July. And the time of that, Sweyn, can you just scroll up again? It was, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. BST. And it's an in-person event at Runway East in London SE1. But they hope to be running other events again. It's good to see a company, that kind of makes money out of this area, wanting to bring the community together to talk about these things. I think Linda O'Halloran is going to be one of the speakers there, who we both know through UK GovCamp. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good event. They're putting what their money where their mouth is around digital. So yeah, sounds a good one. I don't know if they'll ever get to Orkney, Sweyn, but you could always offer them another venue.
We could offer them a hybrid or online event, collaboration or something. Perhaps that would be a good idea. Because I always think that with these road shows that kind of happen, this isn't quite a road show, but I often think if they could include even just one or two online possibilities, even if most of the events are in person, then it's better than nothing.
Yeah. So encourage you to do that, guys. Okay, moving on to Thursday, 27th of July. Responsible Tech Collective is doing an event around learning and possibilities in Manchester. And again, something we found on Eventbrite. They're talking about bringing together communities and cross-sector organisations to explore how they establish Greater Manchester as an exemplar for equitable, inclusive and sustainable tech. Since 2019, the Responsible Tech Collective has been doing this in partnership with the Co-op Foundation and Luminate, reflecting on their work to bring home the humanity to tech. Founded by Noisy Cricket and funded by Luminate and the Co-op Foundation, the next 2 years will continue to put people first to building, understanding and taking action around data ethics, design ethics, diversity and inclusion, plus digital exclusion. They're going to be doing a retrospective of the last 4 years, covering everything from the levers for change needed to affect the organizational transformation needed to affect social impact, and the different projects, approaches, and activities they trial to raise awareness, deepen understanding, and enable action. The session will include both successes and failures, sharing what they've learned to help other organizations in their endeavors to create central communities and adapt policies and processes. They'll also be sharing updates on impact projects, citizen-led security standards work they've partnered on with GMCA, transformation projects like the Community Research Network funded by Innovate UK, and the potential for future activity in sharing learning and shaping standards. So that sounds like something that's going to be very exciting for colleagues in Manchester, and maybe something that other people could drop in on as well. Yeah,
it was great.
So, yeah,
I love that diagram.
Kind of work happening.
Scope of their work and all the
nice to see that. Yeah, good. Okay, so we have
layers of ethical considerations from you.
Yeah, can you bring that up on screen again? Actually, it might be interesting to see.
I think we've got a slight delay in our communication here.
Yeah,
but that's okay. We can manage with that. There we go.
Okay, so in the middle is products and people, and then it moves out to teams, community, organization, society, environment, and industries. And I'm assuming that the practice and the people they're kind of cross-cutting the design ethics, data ethics, diversity and inclusion, and digital exclusion. Because as we know from previous times we've talked about on the show, people move in and out of digital exclusion. And yeah, it depends on the circumstances. Yeah, nice diagram.
Yeah, when I look at it, it's harder to understand than I thought it was, but it's still the two lists, and the fact that they're all interconnected are good things. And now I've lost how to stop sharing, but I'll find that again if you carry on.
Okay. So we have some stories to share with you that we've been picking up over the last while, and the most recent thing that happened, and we were hoping to have a guest on from the Charity Digital Skills Report, but they weren't able to join us today. The Charity Digital Skills Report was established only in 2017, but it's been running ever since then, and it reports on it's an annual barometer of digital skills, attitudes, and support needs across the charity sector. And so people who've responded via the surveys have helped the kind of reporters to track how charities are evolving, as well as gathering insights into areas that are critical success factors for digital progress, such as understanding users, leadership, and governance and strategy. And on the screen now, Sweyn is showing some of the stats that they've brought up, so we can read those out as well. So 27% of charities say the cost of living crisis is a significant challenge to how they're using digital. 66% of charities are interested in making use of emerging tech, such as AI and ChatGPT, which we have talked about before on the show. 65% of charities now have a hybrid working model, i.e. remote and office-based. 48% of charities have a strategic approach to digital, which is really good to hear. Scrolling down more, 78% of charities say digital is more of a priority to their organisation, always good to hear. 49% of charities urgently need funds for devices, software, and infrastructure. And I think that some of that's happening, but obviously not fast enough. 45% of charities say reaching and meeting the needs of diverse users has become a priority. 56% of charities want their leaders to provide a clear vision of what digital could help them achieve. 57% of trustees have digital skills that are either low or have room for improvement. and 59% of charities want to use data and insights to improve their services or operations. So as usual, we will have the link to the report on our YouTube page when the show goes out, so you can download the report and this information yourselves. I was actually asked to comment as a thought leader of some sort on the report. So I said that I wasn't surprised there are more charities at the early stages with digital in the Midlands compared to the rest of the UK. As in my experience, there's been no systematic approach to digital transformation in the sector in these regions. The sample size was small, only 51 organisations, so I'd hope that they could increase that number over the years to come. This does warrant further investigation and potentially further support in the region. And I've been talking to the West Midlands Funders Network about this, the need to build the foundations for digital skills for charities. What is good news is that the Midlands, combining East and West Midlands, has the highest proportion of charities, 41%, saying they're at the curious stage, because to my way of thinking, it's easier to work with early adopters. So I'm hoping to work with some of those 41% in my work. Yes. and wider. And it'd be good to hear from any charities that feel they are, want to come on and talk about the work that they're doing, because they're helping local communities very much, always charities, and it'd be good to hear what experiences they've had and the kind of ups and downs, and what they might need as well, because sometimes people don't get the chance to say what they need, and kind of people assume that they know what they need, and it isn't always the case.
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, I'm involved in 2 or 3 charities locally in one way or another, and it's quite amazing if you think back 20 years how you used to try to organize things using phone calls and bits of paper. It's quite amazing how that has all just completely changed. But there are people who struggle still in each organization. And I was seeking some advice on a WhatsApp group, which I think you're in as well, Pauline, Third Sector
Geeks.
Third Sector Geeks, that's right. And I was asking for help about an issue I had with one of these groups. It was the Island Games, actually. And I was really pleased, because not only did they get some suggestions about the specific issue, but also a reminder that there was an opportunity here to help the people, the volunteers and the board, the trustees, I guess, to actually improve their digital skills. And there's help available to charities to do that. And I hadn't really put even though we'd talk about this every single week, I hadn't really put that together in my own mind. So it was great to just be reminded that there are resources all over the place, actually, and we try and highlight them where we can to help charities get on with some of this stuff. And it's equally really interesting to see a kind of annual snapshot of what the progress and the issues are. Although I do agree with you, 51 organizations seems like a low number as a sample.
Yeah.
But it's probably there's resource limitations everywhere, and I'm sure that's part of what's going on here.
Yeah, people don't prioritize responding to surveys the way you'd like them to if you're involved in kind of making them happen. But hopefully we can encourage a few more to respond and kind of just build into their practice, really. Because we all need these benchmarks, and they become more valuable because of the more people participating in them. So we will be encouraging that when the new report is being put together for next year. So there are kind of 10 calls to action that Zoe Amar and Nissan Ramsey, who kind of compiled the report, have kind of put together, and I think it's worth going through each of those to remind people what they've said. And if anyone, as we said, if anyone has a response to this or wants to kind of comment on their situation, then I think we can, encourage them to come on the show and talk about it, because we'll all learn more from what people on the ground have to say about that. So, starting with the first call to action was around cost of living. It seems like a no-brainer, really, but obviously the cost of living is affecting digital progress, with 1 in 4 charities saying this is a significant challenge, and some of them backtracking from the adoption seen during the pandemic, which is really sad to hear, because a lot of progress was made. But as we know, the kind of the a lot of the work that was done during the pandemic was building on kind of people's worries and fears rather than actual, rationally thinking about what they needed from digital. So, we hope that they get a chance to revise this. 3 out of 10 are spending less money on digital tools. And so the report calls for funders to step up to help to close this gap, particularly supporting core costs so that charities can continue to develop and increase their impact. It's all to help people in the community. It's not, it will help the organization, obviously, because they will increase their skills, but it's about helping the community. So it's sensible.
Great. It's a great one. During the pandemic, everyone realized that things were happening suddenly and not in a particularly strategic way. Really, most people were just reacting to immediate, sudden need, mainly brought about by lockdown and ill health. But there was a kind of feeling in my hope that I had that there'd be a chance as the pandemic eased to kind of consolidate and rethink, but the cost of living thing has just come crunching straight in. I think it's just carried that notion away, and everybody is now just reacting and helping out with the dire need from that situation. It's all a bit sad.
But it speaks to the lack of strategy. If there was strategy, then they would see more clearly that it's less cost effective probably to cut back. But anyway, we will plow on and hopefully that help to be part of the change. The next one is around artificial intelligence, and we haven't had a load of talk on here about that, but we know that it's out there, and it's the majority of charities in this report, 78% actually agreed that AI is relevant to their charity and could transform it, but 73% say they don't be prepared to respond to the opportunities and challenges it brings. So that's like lots of people saying yes, it's great, it could be good, but they don't really know how to make it work for them. So the report says we need a sector-wide approach to AI so charities can influence policy, share best practice, and look at and access support and funding. And it says a great first step for charities is to look at Charity Excellence's AI governance framework. And that's why Charity Excellence is run by a guy called Ian McClintock. We haven't had him on the show, actually, but we could ask him if he'd like to come on and talk about that, because I think he'd be good to... I know he's kind of talking about it. I've talked to a few other people in the sector, Howard Lake and others as well, about AI. So
my personal view about AI is that it's the latest. There is a core. This point is absolutely correct. There should be a sector-wide approach to it because it's a big thing. Everyone has heard of it. Everyone feels that in some vague way that there's something they ought to be doing about it. No doubt there are a few things that on a sector-wide basis or for specific charities, it would be good to do. I think personally, AI is a bit of a misnomer for what these new things are. All they are is an aggregation of text that's been put online already and automatically analysed and parsed and summarised. That's all it is, this AI so far that we're talking about at the moment. Now it will bring up things that might be useful, but I'm afraid to say I think it's a bit like the concept in the 1980s of the paperless office, or the concept in the 2010s of virtual reality going to be where we're all going to live our lives. A huge proportion of what's said about AI cannot possibly be true or ever happen, in my opinion. But it's there, it's useful for some things, and it's great to see it on this list, if only to allow people to relax about it a bit once they've looked into it and realize that it's pretty limited what it can actually do. That's my view. But I've been proved wrong on that. I also had this idea about the internet back in the 1980s. So
hard to believe,
there's a word for people who predict the future, and my technological futurism is deeply suspect. But I do have that feeling about AI. Yes, it's going to be useful, but I don't think it's a transformative thing particularly.
Okay, well, we'll watch with interest and see how it develops, and hopefully again get somebody on to talk a bit more about it and encourage us to learn a bit more as well. I'm
open to being convinced.
Very good, very open-minded. I think we both are in this case. So the third item of the call to action is about data, and we have again talked about data on this show many times before. And again, the report saying charities will need to get up to speed with data to make the most of developments in AI and other forms of emerging technology. 59% of charities, as we said, I think on the earlier data list, is already prioritizing how they use data and insights to improve their services or operations. They need to fast track their data understanding, policies and practices this year, say the report authors. They say we need an informed sector to critically engage with the challenges and opportunities AI presents, encouraging charities to develop their data skills and connect with specialist organisations such as DataKind UK, Data Collective and Superhighways. And these are for charities in London. Superhighways is, the DataKind UK and Data Collective do operate across the country. So we actually know people in all of these organisations, and again, I think we can probably invite some of them to come on and talk about what their findings are around digital inclusion and online communications. They're all people who understand the sector very, very well, and understand the challenges that we're facing. So. Yeah, I mean, as you know, Sweyn and I are both big fans of data. Data, we like to see people using data to inform their decision making. So yeah, all
I think this point,
welcome.
Compared to the second point about AI, I think that has encompassed kind of the focus I think that's appropriate. It's about data, and AI is just another way of dealing in some dimensions with data. There's other things that are AI often suggests to people that it's going to kind of just take all this off your shoulders and do it for you. It's not going to happen. This one about using data and using AI within a data context, I think is a really very much better way of putting the focus on AI than I've seen in many other places.
Yeah, good points. And for those colleagues who don't know or are listening, DataKind UK is a charity that helps other charities to examine their data to understand how to provide services better and measure their impact. And the Data Collective is for people in the sector who are involved in data in some way or want to be involved in data to kind of get together and talk about data. And they do webinars and other events.
This list of calls to action has a really good set of links in it, actually. I'm resisting following them all in this because it gets a bit confusing, and I start to see stars if the screens change too often. But there's lots of links in this.
Really good
just
links.
in one web page.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah. And Superhighways is run by my friend Kate White, who's also involved with Tech for Good in London, and they do great work with small charities as well around data and understanding data and the importance of it. So good organizations to know about, if nothing else, on this call to action. Call to action number 4 is about priorities for funders. They're saying that charities still have significant needs for digital funding, with 41% stating their needs have increased significantly this year, compared to 33% saying this last year. So obviously people are making progress and they need more money to put into the progress that they're making. So the report authors are calling on funders to take on board the digital and funding needs of charities set out in the report and respond to them. So that includes funding digital core costs, being clear on what they will and won't fund, and adapting funding applications so they're relevant for those delivering their work digitally. Yeah, we're both very familiar, aren't we, with core costs and the need to be able to fund the basics, kind of tools to build other bits of work on. So we hope that funders will listen to this and feel that it's important to listen to charities, because it can sometimes feel like a bit of a paternal, kind of done to relationship for charities from funders, where in fact I think most progressive funders these days see it as a partnership where they are helping charities to deliver what are their priorities as well, and that they recognize that charities can tell them what the priorities should be. So big up for the charities and the funders working together. Number 5 in this list of calls to action is CEO and leadership. Now, in this case, it says 3/4 of charities, 78%, say digital is a greater priority for their organizations, but the priority needs to be backed by a clear vision, more than half, 56%, said the number one thing they want from their leaders is a clear vision of what their organization could achieve with digital. So leaders need to define how digital could help their charity achieve its vision and mission, and plan what to do to get there. And CEOs would also benefit from dedicated support here. I think, there's an assumption that because you're a leader, you know what to do on digital, and it's not the case, is it? People aren't. It's not as intuitive as we would like it to be, and people often come into these roles without a background in digital strategy.
So much depends as well on what the context of your career has been up to the point you get to there. Maybe you've always had somebody who kind of deals with this stuff and you haven't really even properly engaged with it yourself. I like to think these days that there will be few CEOs who get into posts who have absolutely no idea about digital. I think we've moved beyond that point, but it's all very well kind of having vague notions about what could potentially be done. If you don't have any concrete knowledge to back that up, it can be a bit hit and miss. So yeah, CEOs need to be helped as well, and we need to find ways to interest CEOs in being helped in some cases, I suspect. Yeah,
very good. I'm delighted that my CEO at NCP, North Community Partnership, is now part of Birmingham Digital Partnership, and is, I feel, both learning from the kind of technical knowledge that she's been exposed to from people in the tech community, but also they're being exposed to her knowledge of community, and it's a really good partnership. They're learning from each other, and they seem very open to that, which is a really good thing to see. So well done to the both sides there. On to learning. The next call to action was around huge potential to stretch charities' resources further by learning with their peers and collaborating. 44% never make digital solutions available to others, and 24% are not sharing learning about their digital work openly. So obviously we would like to see a big change in that. We've talked previously about blogging and so on, and getting people to share the learning that they're doing. We encourage charities to consider open sourcing their solutions where possible and to learn together as much as possible. Well, it's kind of what we've been doing, isn't it, Sweyn? Kind of so much in the work that we've been doing on the program, encouraging sharing of resources and knowledge, and sharing what other people are sharing to show how useful it is.
But there's layers of that too. I mean, yes, if organizations can fully open source, I think I've gone a bit wobbly on the internet for a few seconds here, but we'll carry on. Yes, if organizations can fully open source their solutions, share them, give access to others, but even if organizations can't get to that point, at least just making very clear and sharing widely through networks and so on what it is that they're working on and what their approach to that work is. It's open sourcing of concepts and possibilities as much as of solutions and systems. I think it's really important, so that people can then choose to work together on something if that seems like a sensible, time-saving, resource-efficient thing to do. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes groups need to go through the process of doing their own digital solution. Sometimes, though, that people can see a way around that, and a way where collaboration can actually happen directly. But I think the most important thing of all is to be open and almost broadcast, communicate about what it is the priorities are for your organization and how you see the digital tools that are available being applied to those, even if you then keep what you literally actually do in detail just for use by your own organization. It's the ideas, possibilities that are needed to be shared as well.
And I think the other part of this kind of transparency we're encouraging is talking about what's failed as well, because so much learning can be got from things that didn't work well, including with organizations that haven't worked out, or projects, and we learn so much from the failures as well as the successes that we could certainly help each other a lot in that way as well. Okay, moving on to one of the elements that I've been looking at for my work in Birmingham as well is around boards and digital skills gaps on boards. The report authors say there's still a significant digital skills gaps on boards, a fact which has barely changed since the report began in 2017. So that's not a good thing to hear. 57% have skills that are either low or have room for improvement. Slightly better apparently than last year, but still a long way to go. And the digital trustee, they say, can be the first step on this journey. So again, it kind of highlights organizations that can help with this area of work through Reach Volunteering, and they give a hyperlink to them, or via the Third Sector Lab Digital Trustees Initiative, which is our friend Ross McCullough in Scotland is developing this initiative, but it's working UK wide, so it's not just for Scotland, I'm glad to say. So yeah, I mean, I'm really keen to source and recruit and train digital trustees in my work in Birmingham now. I think it'll be a great way to for organizations to feel that they're more part of this journey. And I've been a digital trustee myself. Two things I would say. One is, if you are recruiting a digital trustee, don't recruit just one, because it can be a very lonely position to be the only person talking about digital and IT on your board. And secondly, the people you are recruiting, make sure that they care about the mission of the charity, not just digital, because they'll get very bored and frustrated very quickly if they're only talking about digital and not about the subject matter.
That's two very good points there.
What were you going to say, Sweyn?
I was going to ask you, really. I wondered if you were about to answer the question about to ask, but you haven't quite. The business about this 57%. The bit about the skills gap not improving over time, is that because as part of that because of churn of trustees, do you think? I mean, do trustees tend to join charities and then stay for a long time, or are we looking at a situation where, because we're recruiting trustees which might stay for 2 or 3 years from the same kind of pool, then we're getting the same proportion of digital skills gap from the new people? So
I think that's a great question.
Training people up who stay a couple of years and then leave with their improved digital skills, only to be replaced by someone who, as they are new and haven't done this before, potentially need to. I mean, over time that will resolve itself, because the pool of people with lower digital skills will reduce over time. You would hope, but not necessarily, because of there's not only churn in personnel, there's also churn in what you need to know and what you need to be able to do as things progress. And as Twitter falls to pieces, you might want to move from that to something else. As Facebook becomes embedded in your small community, you might want to get involved in that. So it's all different stuff. But the principles, you'd hope, would be embedded in the population at some point in the future. But the whole point of this is that we can't assume that. And I think the other thing I was going to say was, a digital trustee, I like, you half answered the question I had. Is it right? I mean, I can see the strengths and the advantages of having a digital trustee or 2 digital trustees, but is there scope for the sector kind of trying to redefine the role of, I don't know, treasurer or membership trustee or membership services trustee or some other, but to actually somehow embed digital stuff into 2 or 3 existing roles, rather than adding a new person role as a discrete thing? I mean, there'll be negatives and positives to both of these, but I just wonder, is there much chat about that? I mean, if you don't want to have a digital trustee, or you can't, as it were, afford or find, your resources are such that you have to multitask, is that a thing that's kind of talked about?
It's talked about a bit, and Ross has certainly developed the kind of definition, if you like, of what a digital trustee is. He's kind of saying that about being able to start the conversations with companies and digital situations more than just having somebody with digital skills. I like your point about the compatibility and the focus on the aims and objectives of the organization, rather than just digital for everyone. You don't want absolutely specific. But I think we can maybe invite Ross to come on and or Janet Thorne from Reach Volunteering to talk about this, because I think it is going to develop more. And yes, I think other trustees can develop their digital skills as well. but somebody who comes on as a digital trustee, I think, will have some specific approaches and contacts, hopefully, with technologists that will benefit kind of in the short term while they're building up their kind of skills for everybody. Really, it's a bit like social media. There was a time when you had one person on a board who might have been into social media, and now you usually get 2 or 3. It just shares out,
and who might well have other roles as well.
Yeah,
in addition to that. That's interesting. Yeah,
and of course, like a treasurer can benefit from the digital side of treasuring, the fundraising and donating and stuff like that. So it's it all helps. It all helps. Okay, we're actually spending most of the show on this topic, but that's fine. I think it's really
we've invented ourselves a guest. It's a report.
Yes, I think there's plenty to say about it. So we'll plow on. So the number 8 in this list of calls to action, and there's 10 of them, is about accessing skills support. And the report is encouraging, the authors are saying it's really encouraging to see the gap between the digital skills in large and small organizations may be starting to close, which is music to my ears. Charities of all sizes, they say, can continue to develop their skills by using resources such as those provided by Catalyst and NCVO and CVO in Scotland as well, and the Welsh equivalents. Those providing, and on Northern Ireland as well, of course, those providing support should focus on addressing key skills gaps, such as user research, 43% who are poor at this, using digital tools for monitoring and evaluation, 39% poor at this, and using data to inform decision-making and strategy, 36% are poor at this. New initiatives, they say, are also needed to ensure we all get to grips with the challenges and opportunities surrounding the use of emerging tech and AI. So again, they're kind of keep coming back to this AI thing. So it's obviously arisen quite a lot in the survey report responses. Great news, I would say, as I said, to hear the gap might be closing between large and small organizations. It's always been a worry to me that there's been such a big gap, and I worried about how it was leaving out the people that were being served by the small charities. So it's good to hear that that gap is closing, but there's still, user research, particularly something that we hardly ever hear about in the charity sector. It seems like an indulgence, really. And the thing is, I think so many people have thought that certain parts of digital are indulgences, but they're not. They're investments in, making a better, stronger organization. So, we hope that people can feel encouraged by this.
We need to get a guest. A guest from the user research strands of third sector on sometime.
That'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah, we can look into that. Okay, the last 2 elements. Number 9 is equality, diversity, and inclusion. And in the analysis of the digital needs of specific marginalised groups, the report authors identified that there was a case for support for tailored funding and support for organizations led by and supporting these groups around their digital skills. Individual organizations within these groups will be at different stages of digital, not all at early stages. So they're saying they encourage funders to consider undertaking their own research and co-designing programs of support and funding with these groups. So certainly something we can relate to and something we found ourselves. And number 10 of these calls to action on the Charity Digital Skills report is around digital services. This year, they say just under half, 46% of charities are delivering digital services in-house or via third-party platforms, a significant drop from 73% in 2022. They're obviously linking this to the end of lockdown and the cost of living crisis or a lack of funding. They're advising charities to keep their skills in this area sharp. Given recent developments in generative AI, it's likely digital service delivery will play a role in most charities' futures alongside face-to-face service provision. So they're saying we can't afford to, decrease our delivery of digital services. People are going to be wanting them more, and if we're not providing them, in that they will go elsewhere to other charities. So yes, good, very good calls to action there, I think, and I'm going to be using them with the people that I'm in touch with as regards funders and others, and encourage that they are aware of these, because this is a useful report. It's 5 years now since it started and being 2017, so it's 7 years since it started. So it's good to keep an eye on it and see that things are developing, and we need to keep monitoring these areas. Okay, so we've come to the end of that particular report, which was, I think, very useful. And maybe if Zoe or Nissa can join us another time in the program, we'd love to have them to talk about any other findings that they've got, and for next year's report as well. We would try and have
I think
them
as
on.
well, the points, those calls to action are, I mean, they are focused and made relevant to charities, but just take one step back, and they really apply to any sort of public service at all in any sector, whether it's the private sector or public sector or the charity sector. I think there would be just direct equivalents in each sector. So it's great. It's a great list, actually.
Yeah, and if anybody is thinking of kind of wanting to, and our listeners wanting to get involved in any of that work, I think the digital trustees would be the one where I would encourage people to get involved. You know, your local charity, I'm sure, could do, if you've got digital skills, your local charity, I'm sure, would be delighted to have you kind of involved with them. Okay, so we're moving on to the next story on our list, which was from Twitter, and it that we picked up the kind of, we've made a headline. Twitter doesn't make headlines, but we've made a headline, and we've said, if you're a library which turns off the Wi-Fi, please stop. And this is from someone on Twitter called STCKED Librarian, basically saying that, you know, if you do have a habit of turning off the Wi-Fi, we did think maybe it's less common than it used to be, but still, if it does happen, please stop. And some of the aspects they pointed out is that 24/7 Wi-Fi helps teens walking around hanging out, shift workers who work odd hours that need a quick stop, people running away in the middle of the night from abusive situations because that's their only option, night owls that are just out, and folk passing through. And I think this was probably American. It sounds like a more American.
I think
American
this is an
terminology.
American account. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it is.
And got, you know, there's some good follow up tweets to the original tweet, which obviously we will put on the YouTube page. And it tells people about people, you know, specific stories of people running away, stuff about passwords, you know, people finding safety because they were able to use the Wi-Fi from a library. So it's you know, it's important one to be aware of. Sometimes I think people don't think of all the possible scenarios for having free Wi-Fi, so it's good to have a list like that.
It is.
And actually, if you're any public institution that has Wi-Fi, please don't turn it off, you know, for any of these reasons.
I mean, I think this tweet that I'm displaying now, which says, "And no, I do not expect you to clean up feces and needles." I mean, I think there's got to be these reasons why organizations have thought, is, you know, we just need to switch it off and not be a magnet for people who we don't want to hang out here. But what this person, I think it's a she, librarian, is saying, go out and speak to those people, make them feel as involved as possible, that you're actually providing it to them as a service. It's not just doesn't just happen to be there, and maybe that'll remove some of these issues with it. Who knows? But yeah, I think the idea of switching your Wi-Fi off when you lock the door at 5 o'clock is hopefully one that isn't too common nowadays.
Yeah. Okie dokie. And moving on, we had a story about biases, and this is from LinkedIn, and basically somebody who called Fleur Larson, I think, and I have heard of her before, and I've heard about some other people kind of listening to what she has to say. She's saying basically all humans have biases. White folks, we have racial biases and racism. And, you know, this could be a controversial one, but I don't think we have any difficulty with admitting that, you know, because we grow up in a society that's you know, white based, or white, you know, sort of white supremacy, white prioritization of kind of what white people want, then we do have biases, and we struggle with them, and we need to admit that we struggle with them, but we're trying to do something about it as well. Fleur says about learning more about our need to be one of the good ones, and our fear of being called racist, and it can be less useful than we think. She's a facilitator focused on the equity, racial justice, and community development, pushing for more accountability from white women particularly. And this is something that I'm going to be using in some work I'm doing separately from the show. But it's good to have these things to get, you know, in one place. We're not, you know, we're not bad because we have these oppressive patterns. We have them, and we need to do something about them. Like men need to do stuff about sexism. People who are heterosexual need stuff about homophobia. We all have them. It's not a secret, and it's just a thing to do, because we want to be better people. We know we want to be better. We know we can be better people than we are. Every day we can be improving. So yeah, good. Thanks.
I like the phrase. It's a few screens down, but the phrase she uses that I like best is, our brains move really fast, and whatever we're thinking, our implicit biases, which may be racist as a result of how we've been socialized, can just come up. And it's about kind of becoming able to be aware of those as they happen, and try and being prepared to be challenged on them if we ourselves don't realize that we've done it as well. It's all part of what is needed in terms of inclusion and basically just equal rights, really equity.
Yeah, which is what this program is all about. So it's good to see it in another case as well, where we might be able to affect some change. Okay, the next story is from AbilityNet. Again, somebody, I don't think we had anybody from AbilityNet. Oh, we had your friend on the show. Honestly, Robson. Jamie on the show from AbilityNet recently, and he talked about the great work that they do. Well, this is a survey that they've done revealing what older people want to do with tech, and they are saying that the older generation is comfortable using Google Maps and WhatsApp, but won't set up the smart TV or talk to AI, according to a new survey of people aged 65 and over. And this was a poll conducted for BT Group by onepoll.com in mid-June this year, in finding that older people want to build their digital confidence and identify the top tech tasks people are and aren't willing to do. And it indicated that older people tend to struggle with digital technology. It's just 13% rated their ability as very good. I think we've got a mixed up screen at the moment, but I'll press on anyway. More than half of the people surveyed said they would like to be better at using and understanding digital technology, and not being shown how to use something, 40%, and finding new tech complicated and overwhelming, 29%, are the major factors holding this group back. Nearly a fifth would be more inclined to build their confidence with digital technology if they had someone to show them how to use it. So yeah, some good information there. I think that a lot of organizations working with older people would find it useful to have that information to help them if they're doing applications for funding or for support from funders that we've talked about before. Then it's useful to have that sort of information there. Yeah. So I was just saying, Sweyn, that we had somebody from AbilityNet on previously the show, and we hopefully would have somebody from AbilityNet on again to talk about this report. It's great to have organizations that are like specifically, it's a niche part of digital inclusion, kind of doing polls, because they will have access to research that maybe the rest of us don't have as yet. So yeah, good to be pressing on with that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got time for, I think, one or two more stories.
Sure.
Particularly, this is a deadline one that we certainly want to get in. The next story is about the new Lend and Mend hub at Orkney Library and Archive. I wonder where we got that from. I think this is one you spotted on Facebook, Sweyn. Apparently, there's some now new free classes in the new Lend and Mend hub at Orkney Library and Archive. They're an introduction to sewing machines, and they begin in September, taking place over 3 weeks on either a Wednesday or Thursday. And the first classes are aimed at complete beginners. It was nice to see this sort of thing happening, Sweyn.
Yes, I mean it is a brand new thing. I think it's one of the first of its. This is a concept that libraries are doing nowadays. I think this is one of the first to get off the ground in Scotland, which is great to see Orkney Library doing that. And they've obviously decided that eventually they would hope that they'd be able to give advice and have a collection of things they can lend out to people. But I think they've decided to start with textiles because there's some expertise within the library staff on that already. And it's just great to see kind of reuse or avoiding in the great resource management challenges that we have. It's always best to use less or to reuse something you've already used without having to go to all the energy and expense of recycling or buying a new one. So I think libraries have a great, it fits really well in my mind with what libraries' mission kind of is, to make people's life better to give them information and skills and stuff like that. I think it's a really good initiative, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops as a strand of library services across the country. But this is just one small example of it getting started.
Is it something that you might do yourself?
My rucksack. I'm going to take my rucksack, which is falling to bits
okay,
these days, and see how they advise me to go about mending it.
Do you have a sewing machine yourself?
We have a sewing machine in the household. Yes,
okay,
I must say,
excellent.
the last time I used a sewing machine, I was probably about 10.
Okay,
that wasn't yesterday. But yes, so it's I'm not going to buy a new rucksack. I'm going to fix the one I've got.
Excellent. Just stitching. Yeah. Good. Okay, we've got one more story before we close the show today, which is about stamps. And some of you may, as I do, have some stamps in a drawer somewhere. And this is a story again from Twitter, from an account called JT Changing Biz. I think it's John Thompson. Is that his name?
It is. Yes.
And we put the headline as "Stamp Out Loneliness. Use your non-barcoded stamps before the 31st of July deadline." So from the 31st of July, which is only in a week, it's next Monday, millions of, the story says, and I want to clarify it because it's not the end of the world, but it's a deadline that you might want to try and meet. They're saying millions of Royal Mail stamps will become worthless from next month, so make sure you use them before the deadline. Classic stamps, the ones without the barcode, are being replaced by ones with barcodes, which allow recipients to watch videos when they scan the barcode using the Royal Mail app. And the deadline is the 31st of July. Cut-off was previously 31st of January, but the Royal Mail introduced a 6-month grace period. So if you still have a lot of older stamps you won't get through before the deadline, you can swap them through a new scheme run by the Royal Mail. So it's good that there is a deadline to use them, like on letters and stuff. But if you don't use them, you can still redeem them by sending your unused stamps into Royal Mail, and then they'll send ones back to you with barcodes. I'm not sure how many people actually want to watch videos while they're when they scan the barcode. Anyway,
that detail had passed me by. I assumed the barcodes were something to do with handling the mail, but
so did I. Yeah. So
I'll have to look into that a bit more. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the second last episode for season 3 this week, and next week will be our last episode for this season, and we are hoping to bring you a guest to finish off the show with, and then we're off for the month of August, and we'll be back sometime in September, hopefully the week, as we say, of the ending digital poverty, that day, the week of the 12th, but we will confirm on social media near the time, but we hope you all have a great week, and we hope to see you next week. So in the meantime, have a great week. Thank you very much. Bye.